What's up, everyone? Welcome into the Sunday night recap presented by FanDuel. I'm your host, Simon, joined as always by my co-hosts, Josh and John Luke. What's up, boys?
What up?
Here. Ready to fix some stuff or guide traffic? I don't know, however you want to
fix some stuff or guide traffic.
Why not both?
Do it all.
And JL is here. I'm sorry. Facebook himself is here to gather all of our data, I think is what's going on right now.
Yeah, you can refer to me as Meta now.
Meta. So Meta, it's great having you on today. We have had an awesome day of football. It's been a little bit different than some of the past weeks where we've had a really exciting 4 p.m. slate, then a less exciting 1 p.m. slate. It felt like the 1 p.m. slate felt a little slighted by us, and they came out and showed up with some killer games today. I'm excited to get into them. Before we do that, one thing I want to remind everyone, if you are here watching this right now, that means you are already on the FanDuel YouTube or Twitch channels. If you're on the YouTube channel, smash that subscribe button and hit the like. There is a whole team of awesome content creators here at FanDuel helping you win money and win your leagues. So make sure you're subscribed to them across all socials. It's FanDuel everywhere. They're easy to find. Guys, are you ready to jump into our Sunday night football preview? We're going to go ahead and dive straight into that one. I said dive straight in. It had been such a long time.
You deserve that one.
I did deserve that one. Guys, so right before the stream, we had some news break, and I think that's probably the majority of what we're going to be talking about right here. Dak Prescott officially inactive for this game. It's been listed as a game-time decision, questionable all week. It looked like it was trending this way, but we have official news now. Josh, how does that affect the receiving options for you on this Dallas offense?
Honestly, it limits everyone. It downgrades everyone on this Cowboys offense for me, including the rushing game. I don't feel fully confident in anyone because we really don't know what Cooper Rush can do. We've never seen him in an actual NFL game starting as a quarterback. So I'm concerned. But having said that, this is a good team. They have good pieces around him. So I could see good things happening, but I am not expecting it.
Yeah, I'm still starting most of the players on this team. Yeah. I am a little bit concerned for Amari Cooper, for some of the pass catching options here. Definitely not firing. Gallup's back, right, this week?
I don't think he's playing.
He's not playing this week? He's not? Okay.
He came off the IR and he was practicing a little bit, but I don't think he's active for the game today. Yeah. I could be mistaken.
But I'm, CeeDee Lamb, Ezekiel Elliott, all those guys I'm still playing this week.
So Michael Galvin is listed as a game-time decision for this game, according to NumberFire. He's still listed as a game-time decision, so we could see him on the field. My question, we're talking about we're downgrading these receiving options, but since it's a Sunday night game, there are limited options to replace them. And, Joe, you kind of hit on that. You're starting all of them. Now, the game's left. You could pivot to a Minnesota wide receiver or someone from the game tomorrow. Are you looking at
or Kansas City? And there's probably a couple Giants wide receivers available in your leagues because they've dealt with so many injuries, right? So
would you rather start CeeDee Lamb or any of the Giants wide receivers?
Lamb.
Okay.
CeeDee Lamb, yeah, for sure.
CeeDee Lamb or KJ Osborne?
CeeDee Lamb.
So I really think you're adjusting your expectations, but I think there's very little besides moving Dak out of your quarterback spot that this is going to actually affect from a fantasy perspective. You're leaving these guys in your season-long lineups. It does affect their upside for sure. FanDuel's in here with the spooky pumpkins. Welcome in, FanDuel. And we got J-Wall saying, Happy Halloween, FY FanDuel. And Maria said, Happy Halloween at J-Wall, FanDuel, and Front Yard FYF. And everyone else joining. Happy Halloweens all around. Anthony said 3-5 crew. Happy Halloween, kids.
Anthony.
Happy Halloween, Anthony. And Simon is legendary. Good one. Good one.
It is actually, it's kind of funny because you're a cow.
I can't even eat dairy though.
And you produce legendary. Milk though.
You do anyway.
Yeah.
I gotta show something off. It's got the udders and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that is hot. That is so hot.
I don't know if YouTube and Twitch are going to like that so much.
Yeah, they do not like when you show your udders.
JL's mommy just is watching the FYF FanDuel show rather than handing out candy, lights out. Does that make me a bad person? No, absolutely not.
You think I'm handing out candy right now? Hold on.
Handing out something.
Okay.
You are handing out something. Guys, unless there's anything else about this game on the Minnesota side of the ball you want to say, I think we're going to go ahead and move on to our first recap of the day.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. The first game we're going to be talking about is the San Francisco 49ers versus the Chicago Bears. So let me get that one pulled up for us right here, and then we can go ahead and jump into discussing that game.
Absolutely. And this was a good game. Most of the game was good. The Bears were winning for the majority, it felt like, but the 49ers kind of pulled it all together at the end. And when we're looking at the 49ers side of the ball, Jimmy Garoppolo had a fantastic game, right? It was really on the back of 2 rushing touchdowns, which looked more or less like designed touchdowns for him to run the ball, which is interesting for Jimmy Garoppolo, who's not known as a mobile quarterback. Elijah Mitchell killed it. Deebo Samuel did Deebo Samuel things, and Brandon Ayuk actually put together a game like compared to what he's done so far this season.
Yeah.
but he even really had a catch in the end zone. It was not, but he did have a catch.
Yeah.
He did have a catch. Yeah.
But outside of that, really the one thing that stood out to me the most was Elijah Mitchell. Like you said, he had a fantastic game. He had 18 carries, 137 yards, 1 touchdown. The question I have for you guys, I'm going to come to you first, Simon, on Elijah Mitchell here. Is Elijah Mitchell a locked and loaded running back for your fantasy team? Can you just put him in there, feel comfortable starting him week in and week out?
I think the reason you came to me is because I was hesitant to crown him the running back for the San Francisco 49ers for a bit there. And you know what? I'm making the switch. I think Elijah Mitchell, if he's on your rosters, you're plugging him in and you're playing him. Unless you have an insane team where you've got like Najee Harris, Austin Eckler, and DeAndre Swift. I find it very hard that you're not going to get Elijah Mitchell in your lineup. He looks like the guy. And it's been a while since we've had some real clarity in this 49ers backfield. So that's exciting.
I agree.
It's so funny trying to take you seriously with a cow costume on.
Does it help if I take the hood off
and
just have
actually
a cow hat on?
It does help a tiny bit. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it helps here too because I am so hot in this thing.
So JL, do you agree with Simon here? Do you think Elijah Mitchell's a locked and loaded? Let's say running back 2. That's what Anthony came and said. He's a solid running back 2 rest of the season. Do you agree with Anthony, JL?
Absolutely. 18 carries is significant. If they continue to run the ball that much through Elijah Mitchell, he's absolutely a running back 2 rest of the season. There's virtually no receiving work for Elijah Mitchell. He hasn't gotten a single catch since week 5 where he got 2 catches. And then one other week in week 2, he got two receptions. Outside of that, no receiving work, which definitely limits his upside. So RB2 right now, rest of the season.
Yeah. Yeah, and it does suck that he's not going to get the catches, but having, if he's getting 18 carries and he's in this 49ers zone blocking run scheme, he's going to be successful and he looks like the guy. We'll see what happens when Jeff Wilson comes back in a week or two, but I don't think it changes anything in my mind. Now, on the other side of the ball, we had Justin Fields, who finally had a game, guys. He did it. He did it. He ran the football. He passed the football. He looked like he knew how to play
quarterback
football, finally. He did quarterback things, which we haven't really seen from, honestly, any Chicago Bears quarterback so far this year, but especially Justin Fields. So it was awesome to see. Khalil Herbert did not have a great game considering he had 23 carries from a fantasy perspective, but this is encouraging going forward regardless. The wide receivers, they did Bears wide receiver things where Darnell Mooney, he had 6 catches for 64 yards. He was startable. I guess is he the best Bears wide receiver going forward? Is it just official? Or are we done with Allen Robinson here, guys? JL, what do you think? I agree. I think so. I think it's Darnell Mooney.
Out of the two of them, yes. So on the season, Darnell Mooney has a 26.1% target share in this offense compared to Allen Robinson's 21.7% in the last 3 games. So this is going to help you see like sort of the trend just recent, in the last 3 games. Darnell Mooney, 26.5%, which is relatively the same, right? Allen Robinson, 18.1%. So down 3%. That's significant.
It is.
Allen Robinson is a 2 in this offense. Justin Fields prefers Darnell Mooney, and they're not passing enough for it to really matter either way.
Yeah. And Justin Fields, do we have confidence like playing him in normal fantasy leagues, Simon? He's running. He got over 100 rushing yards today. What do you think, Simon?
I need to see it again. Know what I mean? I need to see that this is the way they want to use Justin Fields and not just this is one game that happened. Because we've seen quite a few games before this where Justin Fields was completely and totally unusable for fantasy and not a great NFL quarterback. It was great watching him show what he can do in the game today, but I'm not plugging him into any lineups next week. I need to see it again, that this is their plan going forward.
And he needs to pass more.
He does.
Yeah. 27 attempts, 19 completions for 175 yards and 1 touchdown. It's just not quite enough. I mean, I feel like we had a similar type of discussion with Jameis Winston early in the season where he was getting fantasy points, put up some decent weeks, but
Justin Fields runs it.
I was going to say,
he does run it. You're right.
I immediately agreed with you that he needs to pass more, but for the NFL, yeah, absolutely. For fantasy, not necessarily. He can pass the ball 15 times a game if he's getting 100+ rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. Like
if he
it's
runs
not
that
going to
well,
look good.
yes.
Yeah.
He hasn't run that well. I mean, this is the most rushing attempts he's had out of the whole any game this season, tied with week 2. And
how many yards did he have week 2?
31. This is the first time. This is the first time he's gotten more than 43 rushing yards in a single game this season. So, and he had a rushing touchdown, which definitely helped. So that I completely agree with you, Simon. He needs at least both. He needs to increase. And I met with Matt Nagy coming back, most likely next week. I want to see that he's actually going to be as efficient in the run game.
It's so funny. Their head coach is out for a game,
and then he does well. He's like, he's at home, just like, son of a bitch.
Well, and here's the bet. I was sitting on my couch thinking about this. I bet Nagy wrote up the game plan for this game, like went through it with all the coaches that were going to be taking over, and no one's ever going to believe him.
No,
know what I mean?
No
one's ever going to. Like someone's going to take credit. He'll be like, no, that was me. This was my game plan, and no one's ever going to buy it for a single second.
Yeah. He intentionally tried to make it a shitty game plan too, but they just ignored him.
Oh man. Is there anything else that stood out to you in this game, guys? Because I think that's pretty much it. Justin Fields, it was great to see him do well, but I'm with you guys. I am not starting him until I see this happening even more,
No, yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Joe.
No, I was just going to say another thing that stood out to me was Khalil Herbert, 23 carries. That's a ton of carries, 23 carries, 72 yards, and no touchdowns, unfortunately.
But he's getting the work still.
He's getting the work right now, yeah.
Yeah, and we talked about it a bit last week, but he's getting so much work at this point, and he's been doing pretty well with it. I think David Montgomery is going to see a little bit less work. He'll still be the alpha in this offense, but Khalil Herbert has earned more work in this offense, even with a healthy David Montgomery, that I think that's what we're going to see. I've changed my tune a little bit on that one. It's not going to be the same workload for David Montgomery that we saw previous to the injury.
Especially because we saw trade rumors circle about David Montgomery as well. It shows that I think they really do trust Khalil Herbert.
Yeah, I agree. Guys, we're going to go ahead and move on to the Carolina-Atlanta game for this one.
Yeah, this was a wild game. Sam Darnold ruled out the concussion. That was he did not look very good. And right before, or actually mid-game, we had some bombshell news break. Calvin Ridley stepping away from football. For the time being, no timeline. Josh, what do you think this means for the other options in this offense?
For the Atlanta Falcons?
Yeah, for the Atlanta Falcons.
For the Atlanta Falcons, I mean, in my mind, first of all, it would be a plus for Kyle Pitt. Initially, when I heard this, I'm like, if Calvin Ridley's not playing this year, which, he's got to do his thing, that's understandable. But from a fantasy perspective, immediately what I think, I'm like, Kyle Pitts is going to be better and Russell Gage is going to be better. However, what happened to Russell Gage this game? He was not targeted at all. Kyle Pitts did pretty much nothing. He had a pretty bad drop there in the middle of the game as well.
Yards. Yep.
I don't know. I would say it would improve their fantasy stock for both Gage and Kyle Pitts, but at this point, I don't know. This offense just is not running very well. Matt Ryan didn't look great today. Cordell Patterson, he's the number one fantasy player on this offense for me. It's crazy.
It's wild. Every week in and week out. What about Taji Sharp? Taji Sharp had 5 receptions for 58 yards, no touchdowns, but 5 receptions on 6 targets. Simon, are you interested at all in Taji Sharp with the Calvin Ridley news?
I think you have to have some interest. Am I rushing to throw him into my lineups next week? No. But if I've got a bench spot, if I've got a wide receiver on bye and I'm looking for a fill-in, he's definitely a name I'm considering. I'm not trusting the targets from this game because, like you mentioned previously, this was a weird game for the Falcons. None of their receiving options really did anything. I expect Russell Gage to be involved in future games. So I'm not hyped about Tajay Sharp. I think he is an asset that you can pick up, and if you need to plug him in because you're a wide receiver needy team, you can go ahead and do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. Mike Davis, who last week was skunked. I think most of the fantasy community declared him a bust going forward, droppable, not worth throwing in your roster. And Arthur Smith came out in between and said that was largely a product of the team just not running the ball as much. What do you guys think? This week he did bounce back. He had 9 attempts, 44 rushing yards, 6 targets on 5 receptions for 22 receiving yards. Are you guys at all back in on Mike Davis?
This plus a touchdown is his ceiling to me. Know what I mean? Like you throw a touchdown on there, add 6 points, and that's the ceiling you can expect from Mike Davis with how they want to use him. Now, does that mean he's rosterable? Absolutely. Like you can throw him on there, but this does not make me more excited about Mike Davis. Cordero Patterson's the back to roster in this Atlanta Falcons offense, and Mike Davis is going to do this or worse the rest of the season. Like this is what you're going to see. This is a Mike Davis game.
Does the Calvin Ridley news change Mike Davis's outlook at all?
I don't think it changes much, honestly. It's relatively the same. While Mike Davis might get a few additional touches without Calvin Ridley there, it's really the offense is just going to be less efficient as a whole without Calvin Ridley. So it's going to limit those goal line touches that we envision Mike Davis getting. I don't want to start Mike Davis. Is he worth being on your fantasy bench? You know, if something were to happen to Cordell Patterson, Mike Davis is probably a very usable running back at that point. But without that, like he's a bye week fill-in still for me.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are probably still on that train, and we'll have to see it. See his production improve. Mm-hmm. On the other side of the ball, DJ Moore, unfortunately, again, is sort of stuck in this loop of he's getting targets. He got 8 targets, 4 receptions, 59 yards, no touchdowns. And it just seems like it's a product. His poor performance is a product of this offense. With Sam Darnold getting concussed and PJ Walker coming in, what are you guys doing with DJ Moore?
I feel like you still got to start him. He's still got the talent, regardless of the quarterback there. PJ Walker, Sam Darnold. He is the number one on this offense, far and away, still in my mind. Like you said, he's still got 8 targets. The offense is just not as good as we envisioned after the first few weeks of this season. So his upside is limited, but he's still a top 20 receiver.
Yeah.
Are there any? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Simon.
I was just going to say these are my least favorite bits of fantasy news. 1, it deals with an injury from a player, and then 2, there's really not much actionable around it. You're still starting DJ Moore. You're just expecting less. Like you're not taking him out. Maybe if you have a nice option that was close in value that you were debating between Terry McLaurin or something that you couldn't fit into your lineup, this swaps those guys. But in most cases, you're just leaving DJ Moore in there.
Any other options on this offense? Tommy Tremble, Robbie Anderson, any of these guys interesting to you? Are you plugging in a FanDuel lineup?
Robbie Anderson got lit up today. He got lit up. I want to see how serious that injury is because he was taken out of the game, but he only got 1 target this game. And really what was making his like fantasy value at all was the targets, So
right.
I'm not interested in anyone other than the starting running back, aka CMC when he comes back, and Chuba Hubbard right now, and DJ Moore.
Yep, full agreement with Josh. And at least Robbie Anderson's targets matched his production today. It's been confusing all season watching them not match. At least he did us a favor and made them match.
Yeah, absolutely.
Guys, before we move on to our next game, we got some people in here. Grim fan said Gainwell and Emmanuel Sanders was a bust.
Yeah.
Man, I felt that Gainwell one with you, Grim. That one really hurt a lot of my teams. That one was rough. I think that was just a collective, like, hands on the head surrender cobra from like 90% of fantasy managers out there with the Gainwell game today. And Anthony saying he started Gainwell over Michael Carter. Ouch. Ouch. And then Grim saying, fire Nagy, all hail the new guy. Doesn't even care who it is. He's all in on the new guy.
I'm with you, Grim. I'm about the new guy.
What's up, Kev? Welcome in. Kev said, bird up, worst show on television. And then Grim, man, and then the Bengals lost. You had a rough week. The Gainwell start seemed like a lock. The Bengals win over the Jets seemed like a lock, and didn't turn out that way for either one of them. We'll talk a bit about this Bengals game in a little bit, but man, that was absolutely rough. FanDuel with the FYF logo. I love it every time I see the those emotes pop up in the chat. Mm-hmm. And Maria want to know, should I be starting Melvin Gordon? I put him on the bench today, and I wish I didn't. I know we're going to hit on this more, but Josh, just immediate reaction to this question. Mm-hmm. Are you starting Melvin Gordon week in, week out in most fantasy leagues?
Yes. In most fantasy leagues with the running back situation that's going on right now, yeah, you probably are starting him in most fantasy leagues. I would be terrified if he was my number 1 running back on a team, but he's getting enough work to where he is a startable asset on a Denver team that can move. And Melvin Gordon looks good. Melvin Gordon looks good when he gets the ball. It's just we're so nervous about Javonte Williams eventually taking over all this workload that And Melvin Gordon's still the starting running back for this team.
Yeah, we haven't seen it yet. We haven't seen Javonte take over the workload yet. And Melvin Gordon, he's a back end RB2 so far in the season. I expect that going forward. At worst case, high end RB3.
I mean, we just talked about Elijah Mitchell. I'm still playing Elijah Mitchell over him, or any running back that's got the role all to themselves. But that list is not very long.
Yeah.
And FanDuel coming in right after Maria's question saying Melvin just fumbled.
No.
Maria asks and FanDuel comes in with the Melvin fumble. And Albert letting us know McCaffrey expected back next week. So everyone who held on to him, congratulations. You made it. Next week is the week.
It's like how many times have we heard that he's expected back? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we've heard it quite a few times.
Don't you say that, Joshua.
Hey, I'm crossing my fingers. I've got him in a couple of leagues myself.
Guys, this next game we are going to be talking about is the Cleveland Browns versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Oof, man, not a good game for the Browns, but there's some fantasy news we can take out of this. The number one thing, Josh, it was something you said while we were watching the game, and the thing I wanted to ask you guys, Josh, I know your opinion, so I'm going to come to you first on this one. You're the one who said it.
Come on. I know
Can you start Odell Beckham Jr. in any fantasy format right now?
No. You can't. He got one reception today for 6 yards. He's done nothing all season to give you any faith that he's going to give you anything. I mean, I remember a few weeks ago, there was a pass Baker Mayfield missed that he would have scored a touchdown on, but it was broken coverage. It wasn't like Odell Beckham did anything, No, you can't start him. Am I willing to drop him? Not yet. I don't want to drop him. If I saw him on the waiver wire and I had an open spot on my bench, I'd probably throw him one there, but he hasn't done anything. So is he droppable? He is. He absolutely is.
I'm not dropping the target share leader in the Cleveland Browns offense. I can't do it. I feel like I'm with you, Josh. I feel the pain. This week feels like an anomaly. He hasn't gotten a one target week like this at all this season.
Well, what's his top amount of targets he's gotten in a week?
Is 9, which is
really
okay.
That's more than I would have guessed. So.
It's fine. The Cleveland Browns, I haven't checked, and you know what? I probably won't know till the stats come out tomorrow. But in the recent weeks when I checked, they are the team that's running the most run plays out of any team in the NFL. So the receiving options are going to suffer from that. OBJ is still the target share leader here. I'm just holding out and hoping that they pass more.
We kind of knew this coming in, though, didn't we, Simon? That they were going to run the ball.
It was going to be a run-heavy offense. I expected Odell Beckham to do more with the targets that he was going to get that we projected for him, and it's just not happening. I don't know if it's Baker, if it's this offense, but it is just not looking good for Odell Beckham. So, guys, rest of season, who would you rather have on your roster? Odell Beckham Jr. or Sterling Shepard?
How about a guy on his own team, Jarvis Landry? Because I'm taking Jarvis Landry over Odell Beckham and Sterling Shepard.
JL? Answer both those guys.
I hate you guys. I will take. Oh God, I hate that. I'll take Sterling Shepard, and I plead the fifth on the next one.
And Joe's like, and I'll take neither on the next one.
I would take Jarvis. I would take Jarvis just because that we know that he and Baker have a rapport. And if you're playing PPR format, which if you throw him in your FanDuel lineup, I'd rather have Jarvis, honestly.
Now, he has missed a game, but I just want you guys to guess what, Odell Beckham is the wide receiver blank on the season so far in PPR formats.
50.
40, 48.
75. Going into this week. That doesn't even count this week, so I imagine it's going to go down. He is the wide receiver 75 in fantasy going into this week in PPR.
Makes sense because he hasn't done anything even when he's in there.
I agree with Josh. I'm not rushing to drop him, but if there's a guy you need on the waiver wire, he's a name on your roster you can consider dropping. And that really hurts my feelings. And then the next thing
let me ask you this: if who was the guy in the Atlanta that we were just talking about?
Tajay Sharp, absolutely not.
Tajay Sharp.
Okay.
Any of those guys would you pick up and drop? OBJ?
I couldn't do it.
Me neither.
And Gibran agreeing with us, saying he's completely droppable. Only reason he had the target shares because of Jarvis being injured. Tell me what he's done with those targets. Nothing. 100% he's done nothing with those targets. You're right. Even if he's getting the target share, he hasn't done anything with them. But guys, Jarvis
maybe
Landry,
you can package him in a trade and just have name value that gets you something.
It is possible. Guys, the next player I wanted to talk about on the Cleveland side of this ball was the highest scoring non-quarterback in FanDuel scoring format, and it was not Nick Chubb. It was the Ernest Johnson. Now, he only had 4 carries for 22 yards and 1 reception for 7 receiving yards, but he did get the rushing touchdown. So it wasn't like he picked up the Hunt workload, but he was still a little bit involved. Is Ernest Johnson a player that you're looking as an upside play or as an emergency start play? How are you viewing Ernest Johnson rest of the season? Is he someone you're looking to roster?
Yeah, he's an emergency type flex play for me. Four carries is nothing. That's nothing. Just because he vultured a touchdown, I'm not gonna expect any sort of consistency in fantasy points going forward, barring injury.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you as well. He's not a player that you can keep plugging into your lineups. He may have weeks like this going forward, but you don't want to rely on 4 carry kind of volume. They want to keep giving that volume to Nick Chubb. Najee Harris on the other side of the ball, on the Steelers side of the ball, he just continues to be unbelievably involved. 26 carries in this game, 91 yards and a rushing touchdown, and then some receiving work on top of it. So JL, we just did this with Odell Beckham, but I was having you guess. Now I want you to project rest of season. Najee Harris is the RB blank rest of season.
Ooh.
He's so involved in this offense.
What is he currently in PPR?
He's got to be like 3.
I can tell you in 1 second, right? Not including this game. So before this game, he was 5.
And he had a great game. He was the 7th overall running back in a PPR league this week.
I'll throw him right there. I'll throw him RB7 on the season.
RB7, Josh?
I'll say 5.
So this is a locked and loaded RB1 for you guys rest of season. There's no reason Najee Harris ever sees the bench unless he's injured.
Yes.
Yeah. Barring some massive change, right, in his usage. No, you can't.
Yeah.
I can see a world where Ben Roethlisberger gets hurt and he's not getting the receptions, and the defense is just Najee Harris is going to get the ball all the time. But other than injury.
Other than injury, completely agree. For the receivers on this side of the ball, though, guys, Deontay Johnson was peppered with targets in this game, but Chase Claypool did not get heavily targeted. So Juju goes out. Deontay Johnson has 13 targets, but only 5 targets for Chase Claypool. Josh, does this concern you at all about Chase Claypool going forward in his role in this offense? Or is this kind of what you expected from the deep threat guy?
No, this does not concern me at all. I think Chase Claypool is a fantastic wide receiver talent. This game, we knew it was going to be more of a grind out. I was still starting Chase Claypool going into this game, don't get me wrong, but we knew this is in division rivals. Like we were just talking about, the Browns run the ball a ton. They run down the clock, and the Steelers kind of more or less do the same, with dink and dunk passes. Chase Claypool is going to have great games going forward. He had 2 rushing attempts, by the way, as well.
Yeah.
So they want to get him involved. And Pat Frymuth himself had a good game, which took away some targets. But look at the other receivers. The other receivers in this offense did nothing outside Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool. Chase Claypool is going to have great games going forward still.
Yep.
Yeah. We got Lynn Diesel in the chat, but she's only saying hi to Kevron, not saying hi to us. What's up, Kev? From Lynn Diesel.
Bird
up. And then Grimfan Garofalo, specifically for you. Facebook, Meta. John Luke, JL, with the Jets' big win today, and if they win next week over the Colts, do they make the playoffs as a wild card? And is Mike White the new full-time starter at QB? He wants your prognostication on this question,
Prognostication.
I mean, there's a non-zero.
I don't even know if I
used
used that word right.
You did, because it sounds right, and I can't dispute you. No, there's really not much of a chance at all, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think it's happening. I don't think Mike White's the full-time starter. I think he had himself a hell of a game today. 405 yards, yes, sir. Great job. That's a story he'll remember for the rest of his life. His first NFL career start. I'm just not sure how many more stories he's going to get like that.
I think that's the most yards. I was one of the announcers, I think, was saying, or maybe it was Andrew Siciliano on Red Zone saying it's the most yards out of any rookie QB's first NFL appearance since Cam Newton.
Well, I don't think Mike White's a rookie, but so any first start.
Oh, maybe? Sorry, first NFL start. Yeah, maybe not rookie.
Yeah.
And Grim fan said it can be any of you. Josh, do you think the Jets have a shot at making the playoffs?
No,
no,
I don't.
Sorry, Grim fan. Sorry if you're a Jets fan, but we do not. Yeah. Anthony said Tom Brady pick 6 to lose, and he is laughing.
No way.
That is brutal, Anthony. But and happy Halloween. Now we get the hello from Lynn Diesel. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
To you and everybody else watching. It is a good one. But Josh, you touched a little bit on the last thing I wanted to talk about here. So we did mention on the live streams this past week with Juju going out, there was a chance there could be more involvement for Pat Freiermuth stepping up as the tight end in this offense. And it looks like he took a step forward today. What was it? 7 targets, if I'm not mistaken. 4 receptions, 44 yards and a touchdown. What category of tight end does this put Pat Freiermuth in for? And to qualify, I mean, like, locked in starter, potential starter, bye-week fill-in. Like, how do you view Pat Freiermuth the rest of the season?
He's a borderline locked and loaded starter. Like, he's a borderline top 12 tight end. So that, there's the tier of like the top 5 tight ends where it's like TJ Hawkinson, Darren Waller, Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, Kyle Pitts kind of deal. And Kittle finds his way up in there when he's healthy. And then kind of Pat Freiermuth could fall into this category of these rest of the tight ends. Am I going to start Mike Gesicki over him? Yes. Am I going to start Noah Fant over that? I mean, Noah Fant's where you start to question it. I think right there, Noah Fant level, Dawson, Hunter Henry level, Zach Ertz level. You could play Pat Freiermuth over any of these guys, I think, because he's a rookie. And he's growing in this offense, and Ben Roethlisberger likes to throw it to him, and he's very talented.
Yeah. Gail, how do you feel about Pat?
I don't know if I'm starting him over Fant, or what was the other name you threw out there?
I threw Hunter Henry, Zach Ertz.
Yeah, maybe Hunter Henry, Zach Ertz in the right matchup, but his target share is still pretty low. It has improved the last 3 games. It's been at 10.1% on the season, 18.9% in the last 3 games. So it's going up. So if he can sustain that, I'm a little bit more interested. But otherwise, I think he's most likely maybe back in tight end 1.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. And 18.1%, like you said, if he can sustain, that's awesome for a tight end.
18.9%. That's excellent for tight ends. I think that would put him in the top 5 of tight ends, if I'm not mistaken. I can double check that.
If that stays consistent for another 2-3 weeks, I think then you really have to bump him up a tier. Then he bumps into that you're starting him every week kind of guy with that kind of target share. Also, Grim said, yeah, I am a Jets fan. I'm sorry if we were poo-pooing on your team. I just don't think this is the year to make the playoffs. But if it makes you feel any better, I'm a Browns fan, and I think I came to terms with the fact today that I don't think we're making the playoffs either. So I'm right there with you, buddy.
Oh, no.
It's not looking good, especially with the division we're in. The Bengals and the Ravens, even with the Bengals lost, they still look like a pretty freaking good team. If you guys are ready, we're going to go ahead and move on to our next game. It is the Indianapolis Colts versus the Tennessee Titans. Let me get that one pulled up for us real quick right here.
Yeah, this was maybe the best game of the 1:00 games, I would say. In my mind, it was, right? You guys agree?
This one or the Bengals game? I think you gotta.
That's fair. Wild. Yeah, the Bengals game was wild. You're absolutely correct. On the Colts side of the ball, Carson Wentz, he continued his run. He's been playing well. He's a good quarterback, and he's kind of shown it. Jonathan Taylor, he is a locked and loaded running back 1 the rest of the season for me. Yeah. Nyheim Hines, he's a good running back. He probably deserves to be on rosters, but I never feel comfortable playing him because you never know when he's going to get those receptions. But really the biggest thing that stood out to me, T.Y. Hilton, he did get knocked out of the game. I don't know how significant that injury is, but regardless, Michael Pittman's the real deal, right, JL? Michael Pittman is the real deal. He started out the game early, 2 touchdowns right away, but he was involved throughout. He is Carson Wentz safety blanket go-to guy. Would you agree, JL?
Yes. Yeah. 24.8% target share in this offense. The next closest option with the next closest in target share is Zach Pascal with 16.4%. That is almost 8. That is more than 8% difference. That's wild. It's Michael Pittman's the real deal.
Michael Pittman's the real deal. I think you could start him every week. Yeah, he's a wide receiver 2 at this point in my mind. A back end wide receiver 2. I want Michael Pittman in my lineup, and I'm very confident about him going forward. Do you agree, Simon?
Yeah, full agreement. I don't know how you can't be watching the past couple of weeks with this guy, and I'm excited to see if he can maintain this rest of the season. And just as like a little game, we were talking earlier, like if he maintains this, what's it going to look like next year? Like where is he drafted? As a wide receiver 2, as a back end wide receiver 1? Like if he keeps this pace up with Carson Wentz,
Simon,
it's fun to watch.
Simon, you wanna do this guy or this guy? Yeah. Would you rather have Michael Pittman or Amari Cooper the rest of the season?
Rest of season? Oh,
yes.
Dear
Oh.
God, you're gonna hit
I'm
me.
doing it to you, Simon. I'm doing it to you.
Oh, he is doing it to you.
No, thank you. I will pass on that one. Oh my gosh,
You
that
gotta
one
have
is.
Cooper.
I'm going to say Pittman.
I think at this point it's. I think it's Pittman.
It hurts.
I think it's Pittman rest of season. Man, yeah,
This is why I
that
don't
one.
trust Amari Cooper.
That one hurts. I still like Amari Cooper. I think Amari Cooper and Michael Pittman are in that same back end wide receiver 2 range rest of season, with some upside. Know what I mean? They have upside, but they are wide receiver 2s rest of season in my mind. If I have to pick one, I guess I'll go Pittman, but they're in the same tier.
Mm-hmm.
Amari Cooper's not even a wide receiver 2 up until this point on the season.
No.
He's
He's dealing with some injuries. But at the same time, there was that quote that came out from him where he says, I'm as close to, I forget exactly how it went, but I'm as close to as 100% as I'm going to get, which really, you could take it a couple different ways. But for me, it just tells me he's never going to be fully healthy this season, which is concerning. CeeDee Lamb is the wide receiver 1 on that team. But anyway, we're not talking about the Cowboys, right? On the other side of the ball, the Tennessee Titans, the winners of this game, it was a close one. Like I said, Ryan Tannehill looked great. Derrick Henry did come out at the beginning of the game with it looked to be like a foot injury of some sort. He didn't have his cleat on. He was hopping around a little bit, but he still got 28 carries, 68 yards. He was heavily involved, but he had his worst game of the season. But AJ Brown, guys. AJ Brown went off. Oh my lord.
MF and Brown.
10 catches, 155 yards, and a touchdown. AJ Brown, he's a wide receiver 1 for me the rest of the season. And you could make an argument that he's at top 5, honestly, I think. I don't even think that's that hot.
It's not.
We'll see what happens when Julio Jones comes back. But you agree AJ Brown's locked and loaded wide receiver 1?
Yeah. It's got to be. And even when Julio comes back, I think he's a locked and loaded wide receiver 1. And we're seeing continued health issues. Julio's having trouble staying healthy. So I don't know what that's going to look like rest of season, if he'll be available.
Last 3 games, AJ Brown, 34.5% target share in this offense.
Man, you just get off on a big target share. That is your favorite stat. That is crazy.
It's one of the most important stats.
I agree with you.
It's opportunity. Players can't score points if they don't get the ball. That's bottom line.
Guys, I just want to highlight this interaction going on in the chat right now. Kev saying, sup, FanDuel. FanDuel said, yo, Kevron, big day for the birds. Because Kev is our bird up guy. Bird up. It was a big day for the birds. And Gabron has a question for us. Speaking of Pittman, how's today's performance affect his salary in regards to DFS algorithms? Obviously, it goes up, but will he continue to be undervalued? John Luke, what do you think on this one? Or Josh, you look like you were about to speak.
No. I think it's absolutely going to adjust back to where it should be. The 2 touchdowns, the 10 catches, there's no way this can be ignored going forward. I think you're not going to be able to get Pittman for a undervalued price going forward.
Yeah, I mean, his consistency hasn't been fantastic. I mean, last week against Houston, he got, in PPR, he got 5.8 points. Wasn't a great game. The week before that, 20.9 points, and then 11.9 points. So I could see it not adjusting and him still being undervalued, but he's clearly Carson Wentz's favorite target. And so I think that he's going to continue being a value until he does it consistently.
I'm a little bit more in line with you, Jail. I think his price goes up this coming week, but it's not going to be enough to make him not a value quite yet. We'll see how the algorithms react, but I think Michael Pittman you're still going to be able to find some value with him in DFS lineups, but we'll see. We'll see what the price looks like this coming week. I'm excited to see what it looks like after this big game from Pittman.
Yeah,
okay.
And if you guys are on that side that's everything I wanted to cover in that game there.
Then let's go ahead and move on to our next game, guys. The next game we're going to be talking about, we alluded to it earlier as the potential other best game from this early slate. We're going to be talking about the Cincinnati Bengals versus the New York Jets. And the New York Jets just stealing a win out there. That 34-31 beating the Bengals.
What are the Bengals? They beat the Ravens. They come to Baltimore. They beat the Ravens. And then they lose to the Jets at home, right? This game is at home.
This was a crazy game. This was insane. And when you look at the Bengals side of the ball, only the people that you would expect to do anything actually did anything. On the offensive side of the ball, it was literally no names. Samaje Perine and CJ Uzomah were the biggest no names, but we all know who they are at this point.
Yeah.
The Bengals are 100% without a doubt in my mind going to beat the Ravens, lose to the Jets, and then come out and beat the Browns in their next game. Like they're going to do it. It just seems like that's what this Bengals team is about. I'm so confused how they lost this game.
Them and the Saints, I feel like they're just messing with my brain.
Baffling.
So let's start with the Bengals side of this ball. Joe Burrow, he had a pretty good game. I don't think we need to talk about him. Tyler Boyd, QB2, right? Threw a 46-yard pass. Joe Mixon, 14 carries, 33 yards, and a touchdown. Clearly, the running back won on that team, in case anyone was worried about him or his injury. Jamar Chase, a little bit falling back to earth here after the last few weeks of just insanity. He had 3 receptions, 32 yards, and a touchdown on 9 targets. Josh, what are you thinking after this type of performance from Jamar Chase? Does this affect at all your opinion of him going forward? Can Jamar Chase be game managed?
No. First of all, he dropped a touchdown very early in this game, and it wasn't it was a drop in the end zone. If he catches that touchdown, we're talking different here. You know, we're saying, another big blow up game for Jamar Chase, and I'm not nervous about 8 targets, 3 catches. He still got a touchdown, like you mentioned. He actually got a rush attempt, which is always fun to see. You know, they're trying to get him involved in any way they can. Jamar Chase is still good to go. Not worried about him.
Is he still the one in this offense?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so T Higgins, who had 6 targets, 4 receptions on 6 targets, 97 yards, no touchdowns. Simon, T Higgins is our guy, our Clemson guy.
I love T Higgins.
What's your opinion of him going forward after a 15-target game this past week, in week 7, going to 6 targets? What can we expect from T Higgins going forward?
I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I never expected the 15 target per game pace to continue into this week. I'm perfectly happy with a 6 target game from T Higgins. That's plenty of volume for him to produce at the wide receiver 2 levels that I think we're expecting of him rest of season. So I'm cool with it. I like T Higgins' involvement in this offense, and I think it's a great offense to have involved pieces for. So I like T Higgins as a wide receiver 2 rest of season. And I know we're not talking dynasty right now, but in dynasty, T Higgins and Jamar Chase are both incredibly valuable wide receiver assets you can have on your team. And I think people are going to be forgetting about T a little bit because of the excitement with Jamar Chase, but he's still probably a wide receiver 2, like a mid-range wide receiver 2 in dynasty wide receiver rankings. He's young, talented, and on a high-powered offense, even if he is the 2. I'm a big fan of T Higgins.
Michael Pittman or T Higgins?
Rest of season?
Oh.
Yes. I'm taking Michael Pittman.
Yeah, I'll take
T Higgins.
There we go. I'm glad we differed.
And so Tyler Boyd, he was
him.
the fantasy point leader out of the receiving options on this team. 1 reception. I'm sorry, no, that's the completions. 5 receptions on 8 targets, 69 yards, and 1 touchdown. Tyler Boyd. Can we even consider him the wide receiver 3 here? Is he the wide receiver 2B? Like, where are you putting Tyler Boyd the rest of the season?
He's the wide receiver 3. Like I'm fully comfortable putting him as the wide receiver 3. We've seen games where he's disappeared. He's the slot guy for them, and he does it pretty well. I say pretty well. I think Tyler Boyd is one of the better pure slot wide receivers in the entire NFL. But that role isn't always needed week in, week out for this Bengals team. So some games he's not going to produce. He's the wide receiver 3.
Where does Tyler Boyd finish in the season in your mind?
Oof, that's a tough one. Josh, do you have an immediate answer?
Yeah, probably as a back end wide receiver 3.
Back end wide receiver 3.
I think that's if you're lucky. I think he may be outside of that range. I think that's optimistic outlook.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Currently, I think not including this week, wide receiver 42 in PPR leagues.
So he'll probably be a back end wide receiver 3 after this week.
Yeah, most likely after that type of week.
But they've dealt with a lot. The T Higgins was out, and if Jamar Chase or T Higgins is not playing, Tyler Boyd becomes a lot more valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. So on the other side of this ball, Mike White, replacement for Zach Wilson here. He had quite the game.
You mean MVP Mike White?
My MVP, future Hall of Famer, first ballot Hall of Famer.
Red Zone MVP.
Red Zone MVP. 37 completions on 45 attempts, 405 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Mike White, he had a game.
I got something to say here. I think Patrick Mahomes could learn a little bit from Mike.
Oh, yeah? Someone text Patrick Mahomes. Hey,
listen, I'm saying this is a joke, but I'm kind of being serious. I'm being slightly serious. Mike White, he was the check down king today, check down after check down after check down after check down, which it seems like Patrick Mahomes is a little bit, he's always looking for the big play. He's always looking for the touchdown every play, it seems like. And it comes back to bite him once in a while, right? I just feel like if he could, just take what's in front of him once in a while, Patrick Mahomes, he would have a much better much better season, NFL season so far.
Yeah, I think that's been his biggest issue up until this point is that he's just making mistakes. They're not going his way. If they were going his way, we'd be talking differently about Pat Mahomes.
I'm sorry, Mahomes. I didn't mean to make this a Pat Mahomes Patrick Mahomes conversation.
Mike White, fantasy aside, I love this. Like, just the story. Know what I mean? Like, I just really, really love when stuff like this happens. He was forced to start, wasn't expecting it. First career NFL start, and he comes out and balls out 405 passing yards and beats the Bengals, who are coming off that like really hot, like one of the hottest teams in the NFL after that win against the Ravens. People are talking about him, and Mike White says, my first start, I'm going to take you guys to the curb.
You will remember the day that you met Mike White.
You will remember M. White.
Oh, man. So also in this game, we had Michael Carter, who had a fantastic game, 15 carries, 77 yards, and a touchdown, and 9 receptions. 9 receptions on 14 targets for 95 yards. What is Michael Carter rest of season? What can we expect from him?
A running back starter, I think, rest of season. He's
involved. Is he an every week starter for you?
I think he's an every week starter. Like, again, I'm going to go back, unless you have one of these crazy teams where you have Austin Eckler, Najee Harris, and DeAndre Swift. Michael Carter's an every week starter. He's involved enough in this offense. And earlier, Josh, we were having a conversation. When or if Zach Wilson comes back, does that affect his value negatively? Because Mike White was the dump off king. I think the Jets might learn something from the success they had with Mike White being the dump off king in today's game. I think they might change up the way they're running this offense with Zach Wilson a little bit whenever he comes back. This looked like a successful formula to provide a new quarterback with an easy way to find ways to make moves in this offense. So I'm expecting Michael Carter. This was an unreal game. I'm not calling for this every week, but he's so involved, and I expect this level of involvement to continue throughout the rest of the season. I don't know how you can't start him.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this then. Who would you rather have rest of the season? Michael Carter or Mike Davis?
Michael Carter.
Okay, Michael Carter. Michael Carter or James Conner?
I'd rather have half of Michael Carter's points than Mike Davis. I'd rather you take Michael Carter, put him in my lineup, cut his points in half, than plug Mike Davis in.
That's dramatic.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
All right. Clearly, Michael Carter over
I'll
Mike
take
Davis.
Michael Carter over James Conner.
And Simon, you take him over James Conner?
I'll take Michael Carter over James Conner.
What about Myles Gaskin?
I'll take Michael Carter.
Michael Carter.
And Zach Moss?
Michael Carter.
I'll take Michael Carter.
All right. So RB2 rest of the season?
I put him in that RB2 category. Yeah.
Fair enough. So Jamison Crowder is the last name on this Jets team we should probably talk about. 20.4% target share, last 3 games. Is he someone that you should be throwing in your lineup in the right matchup?
I still have no confidence starting Jamison Crowder. We got to remember Corey Davis didn't play today. And if Corey Davis continues not to play, then yeah, Jamison Crowder is the wide receiver for this team, but I don't trust him. I don't trust him at all.
If Corey Davis isn't playing, I trust Jamison Crowder. This is what he does. He gets targeted. They're not high value targets. They're pretty low value targets, but he gets a lot of them and he does a little bit with them, enough to plug in as a wide receiver 3 or a flex option. So without Corey Davis, I have full confidence plugging in Jamison Crowder to get something like this, 10, 12 fantasy points. It's going to be fine.
Now, I will say he has seen his targets have been pretty consistent, even with Corey Davis in 9, 6, and then a bye week, and then 6 and then 9. Those are the last 4 games, including the bye. So yeah, I mean, I think that there's definitely value there, but I think the
targets are my number one thing I like to look at. It's the Jets targets.
It's the Jets. And that's my point, is that even though it's a lot, the offense needs to move better in order for those targets to really matter. But still, someone that you should probably have on your roster, maybe throw in your lineup. I would say in the right matchup, I would be fine throwing Jamison Crowder in.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead, Joe.
I didn't have
any. I was just saying. You're right. He deserves to be on teams for sure.
Okay, if that's it for this matchup, we're going to move on to our next one. Anything else you guys wanted to say about the Bengals or the Jets? Nice win, Bengals. I'm sorry, Jets fans, but we are moving on to
the other way around.
Nice
win,
Jets.
Jets.
Wins,
Sorry,
Jets.
Bengals.
Sorry, Bengals. Yeah, that's exactly what I meant, Josh. No, I was just really poking at the Bengals fans. I was just trying to get a reaction. We've got the Los Angeles Rams versus the Houston Texans over here. Guys, there were a couple main things I wanted to touch on here. The very first one, Robert Woods, again, has seen a little bit more involvement. He only had 3 receptions, brought it in for a touchdown. He also had 3 carries and got a rushing touchdown. But off those 3 receptions, he did have 9 targets in this game. So he's getting more and more involved in this offense, kind of like we expected after that slow start. Didn't think it would keep continuing. So I want to play our favorite game. We're going to do it a little bit more. This is another confusing player, right? Who's trending upward, a trending upward confusing player. Who would you rather have rest of season? Michael Pittman was the first name I had written down. Robert Woods or Michael Pittman?
Here's the thing. I almost made it Robert Woods and Michael Pittman when we were talking about Michael Pittman, but I didn't have an answer. That's why I didn't do it. I think I'm still ever so slightly leaning Robert Woods in this high-powered Rams offense with Matthew Stafford just killing it. He looks awesome. So it's so close, though. They're neck and neck for me.
JL?
I hate this question. I lean Robert Woods.
I do as well. And the names are going to go slightly down, but we're starting with Michael Pittman. I lean Robert Woods as well. Now, what about Marquis Brown? Hollywood or Robert Woods?
Robert Woods. With Rashad Bateman taking away some of the targets that I think Hollywood was getting. While they're not the same receiver at all. And Hollywood's going to be great. He's still going to be a wide receiver I want to start. Slightly Robert Woods, but again, they are bunched up so much. Michael Pittman, Robert Woods, and Marquis Brown for me.
JL, what about you?
I am going to go Marquis Brown. The target share is a decent amount higher, and he's just shown it so far.
Okay, let's go one more name. I'll throw one more name out there. Cortland Sutton or Robert Woods rest of season?
Robert Woods. For sure. For me. That's the easiest one so far.
That's the easiest one?
For me, yes.
He's the only name I've thrown out so far that is currently outscoring him on the season. Just to throw some context in there, Cortland Sutton's the only one that's ahead of him, fantasy points scored, up to this week.
Marquis Brown has more than Robert Woods.
Oh, you're right. That's completely false what I just said. I forgot I said Marquis Brown. Michael Pittman has less than him.
It's like, isn't Marquis Brown like top 5 wide receiver? On the season?
He's like number 6 overall prior to this week.
Yeah, I mean, with just today, Cortland Sutton, 4 targets, 2 receptions, 40 yards. I'm with Judy back too. I'm worried.
Hesitant.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those are 3 startable wide receivers. Those are wide receivers that people are putting into their lineups week in, week out for the most part. So that shows me that there's a little bit more confidence in Robert Woods going forward rest of season, where after those first 2-3 weeks, people were benching him, putting him on the bench. I'm glad to see Robert Woods with a bit of a bounce back here. Van Jefferson, though, I know we've talked about him. We put out some videos, waiver wire pickup. He had 6 targets in this game as well. How do you guys view Van Jefferson? As this is a high-powered offense, like Josh said. He's getting targets, 6 targets in a game. We just said that was enough for T Higgins for me to think that supports his valuation. Josh, how do you feel about Van Jefferson? Is he a startable wide receiver?
He did just get hurt in this game. I don't know how serious the injury was exactly, but I know he. Okay, so Sean McVay said that Jefferson is expected to be okay. So that's good news.
Yeah.
Van Jefferson, he's startable. I still don't have confidence to put him in my lineup and feel good about it.
Jayl, are you in the same place?
Yeah, he's a wide receiver 44 in PPR leagues up until this game in the season. He's an emergency flex guy.
Yeah.
I kind of view him how I think we were viewing Michael Gallup going into this season. This high-powered Cowboys offense, the 3rd wide receiver, a startable fantasy option, but not the 1 or the 2 that you're most excited about starting. I think he's a startable player rest of season in that back-end wide receiver 3 range. I think he's a wide receiver 3. I'm a bit more bullish on him, but I like Van Jefferson, and he's been getting more involved. Dennis has a question for us, guys, involving Ridley. So as we mentioned earlier, Ridley said he was stepping away from football for the time being. before we even comment on it, hopefully that he figures out whatever he's going through. Like, I know that must have been a tough decision for him, something he's dedicated his life to step away from. But just looking forward, what do you guys expect from this? Do you think he's going to miss the rest of the season, a couple games? If you've got him on your fantasy rosters, are you dropping him or just holding for the time being?
I can't drop him. I can't do it yet. I need more information to come out before I am dropping what, I expect to be, when he's healthy and playing, easily a top 20 receiver, right? Top 15 receiver. We expected top 5 maybe coming into the season. He's got all the talent in the world. I can't drop him yet, but the thing that sucks is he's not going to be IR eligible. I can't see a world where they make him IR eligible in fantasy leagues. He's not hurt. It's an injury reserve. So
if your league allows players who are out to be in the IR, then I believe you should be able to slot him in there. But Josh is right. Not all leagues are like that, and so I can't really imagine that he would put out this announcement and say this without expecting to miss most, if not rest of the season. Yeah. If he's just planning to miss a couple weeks, I don't think he would say I'm stepping away from football. So at this point, I think it's most likely he's going to miss the season. Long term, I don't know. Only he can really answer that.
Yeah, I'm with Josh. I'd hold him as long as possible, as long as you can. Wait for more news, but it doesn't look good for his rest of the season. There's a good chance we don't see him on the field again for the rest of 2021. But Calvin Ridley, hopefully this time away can be good for you. Figure some stuff out. We're rooting for you, man. Guys, before we move on to our next game, there was one more thing I wanted to address in this Houston game, and that was Mark Ingram has left the Houston Texans, but are any of the Houston Texans rushing options startable at all going forward?
Brandon Cooks, absolutely.
No, rushing options.
Oh, rushing. Oh, no.
There's not a running back you would start here, right, JL?
No.
I know people are excited for Phillip Lindsay, David Johnson. You can't start a single one of these running backs.
No. Phillip Lindsay, 3 carries for 8 yards, no touchdowns. David Johnson, 2 carries for 4 yards.
Oh, my gosh.
Rex Burkhead got the most work. And got the second most work, the most attempts, actually. Scotty Phillips, all our favorite running back. Scotty Phillips.
Just fade the entire Houston Texans backfield. There's nothing else we need to say there. I just wanted to make sure.
The game script won't ever be in their favor. I can't imagine.
Maybe
when Terod comes back.
Don't be excited about the Houston backfield because there's one less person there. There's not value to be had in my eyes. Guys, the next game we are moving on to is the Miami Dolphins versus the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo coming out on top 26-11.
Yeah, and Buffalo was 14.5-point favorites coming into this game. They covered the spread with that last-minute touchdown by Josh Allen. But it was a competitive game, actually, most of the game. I think the whole we barely saw this if you were watching Red Zone. It was 3-3 most of the first half. It was kind of crazy. But on the Miami side of the ball, Tua had a fine game. From a fantasy perspective, he ran around a little bit. He scored a rushing touchdown. But an NFL perspective, it was it left you wanting more, I believe. There was not much of a rushing game. Not that we really expected it against this Bills defense, but Myles Gaskin, again, he was usable. He got 3 catches, 19 yards, 12 attempts for 36 yards. Not beautiful, but it looks to be the lead back for the Dolphins, which is something positive you can take away from this, I think. But the big thing I wanted to focus on, Mike Gesicki, he had his game. But Devontae Parker, he got a ton of targets, 11 targets, I believe, 8 catches, 85 yards. He was by far the most productive receiver for this team, the most productive player, you might say. Does Devontae Parker really hurt Jalen Waddle's effectiveness, his upside? Can you play Jalen Waddle with confidence with Devontae Parker in there? Because I think we were kind of feeling good about Jalen Waddle in this offense. But now, after seeing this game, I know he got the targets, but I don't know, Simon, what do you think?
Yeah, it limits his upside. I think you hit it right on the head. You can still start Jalen Waddle, but Devontae Parker does limit that upside. I think we'll see Devontae Parker weeks. I think we'll see Waddle weeks. It's going to depend where the touchdowns go. They're both going to be involved. It's another receiver for Tua to target. It's an upside limiter, but not a fantasy death sentence that Devontae Parker is back.
Yeah.
I think we saw a bigger impact to Mike Gesicki's targets, right? 4 targets this week. Well, Jalen Waddle had one more target than Devontae Parker, like Josh said. I don't know that it might limit Waddle's like ultimate upside, but I don't think from a fantasy perspective it impacts him too much. I think he's still the one on this offense, but you might see these other like ancillary options like Mike Gesicki. I was gonna say maybe Myles Gaskin, but
the thing is, are you benching Mike Gesicki? Is this
no, of course not. But you might see that his upside limited if with more receiving options on the field.
I just don't even know if I want to play Jalen Waddle, honestly. Personally, I mean, like it really makes me hesitant starting him. I mean, at PPR you can, he's getting the targets, but I'm concerned. I'm concerned about his upside.
So going into this week, he was the wide receiver 20 in PPR formats, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Let me double check that.
Jalen Waddle.
Jalen Waddle, yeah, wide receiver 20. I don't expect that to continue. I think that drops. He drops into wide receiver 3 conversation instead of a wide receiver 2. But that's still a startable fantasy.
And I do realize this is a great Bills defense, right? This is a great Bills defense. And, so I still want to see what happens to come, right?
Yeah. That's a great point, Josh. Let's see how he does against Houston. After that, he does at Baltimore, which is also not a great matchup. But yeah, I do think that we have to take the matchup into account here.
Yeah, absolutely. But on the other side of the ball, the Bills, they ended up doing Bills things. It was a slow first half for them, but Josh Allen, he had a hell of a game still with 264 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 9 rushing attempts for 63 yards and a touchdown on the ground. So, Josh Allen, he's a great quarterback, especially for fantasy. Zach Moss, he again continues to be the lead running back for this team. He actually got 7 catches for 46 yards, while Devin Singletary seems to be a little bit of an afterthought. What do you think there, guys? Like, is Devin Singletary droppable in leagues? I personally want to hold on to him just in case something were to happen to Zach Moss, but outside of that, I don't think you can do much with Devin Singletary.
I have trouble dropping a running back with that clear of a path to touches. Know what I mean? Like, he's not getting them now, but there's a very clear path. We can perfectly outline what leads Devin Singletary to being fantasy relevant. And with the state of running back right now, I have a hard time dropping him. If you can avoid it, I'm holding on to him, but he's not startable.
Yeah. Do you agree there, Jael?
Yeah, I do. I mean, Devin Singletary was more efficient on the ground in this game again than Zach Moss. The lack of receiving work and the fact that Zach Moss is essentially splitting carries, that they're splitting him and Singletary are splitting carries. It really just limits what Devin Singletary can do for you. I'd stash him if you can. I'd be fine dropping him if you need to. Maybe try to trade him.
Yeah. The wide receivers, I got to be honest with you guys. It feels exactly like the Arizona Cardinals, okay? They have a great quarterback that can run the football. They have one wide receiver that you think should be the obvious one in DeAndre Hopkins, Stephon Diggs, but the rest of the wide receiver core is very good at the same time, and you don't know who to start week in and week out. Cole Beasley just had another 13 target game. This is his 3rd week with 13 targets, but then he has 3 weeks with like 2 targets. So like
absurd.
It's a frustrating situation. Both the Arizona Cardinals and the Bills, I think they're exactly the same. You just don't know who to start week in and week out. Other than DeAndre Hopkins and Stephon Diggs, you have to start those guys.
You have to.
Do you agree? It's kind of the same situation almost, more or less.
Yeah, it's very similar. We've seen Stephon Diggs' targets go down last 3 games. His target share on the season, 25.2% of the offense target shares. I'm sorry, 25.2% of the offensive targets last 3 games, 20.9%. So it is trending down. Cole Beasley's, on the other hand, has gone up. I think this is just going to be something that fluctuates. Stephon Diggs is definitely more of that guy. Like, I would expect him to have less targets, but those targets to be higher quality.
I know Emmanuel Sanders didn't do anything in this game, but of the secondary receiving options in this offense, I still trust Emmanuel Sanders the most. This seemed like a slam dunk stardom game, so I did in a lot of places. And you know what? Whenever there's a great matchup, I'm going to keep starting him. He has shown us that he can be he's got the upside of a multiple touchdown kind of game if the targets go his way. That's the kind of receiver I want to throw in on a bye week. You know what I mean? And I've got a little bit more trust in him based on what we've seen so far this season than I do in Beasley or Davis. I know they had better games this week.
Definitely Davis. I don't trust what Davis is doing personally. But he got the touchdown, and that's pretty much it for this game, guys.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to add on this game. So let's go ahead and move on to our next one. The Philadelphia Eagles. Hello, the rushing game for the Eagles. Holy cow. Took down the Lions 44
the Eagles
to 6.
had a great game. That means Kenneth Gainwell had a
good game. The Eagles had a great game, and they scored 4 rushing touchdowns, I believe.
Okay.
So Kenneth Gainwell definitely had a great game, right, JL? Right?
Yeah, totally right. Yeah, definitely. No, didn't. Boston Scott led this backfield along with Jordan Howard. I believe they both got 2 touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken.
They all got about the same amount of attempts, though. That's the crazy part.
Did. What happened to Kenneth Gainwell? Josh, tell us.
I don't know. Okay, he didn't get the valuable touches, and he wasn't efficient with the touches he did get. In my mind, they kind of envision Kenneth Gainwell as this middle of the field, between the 20s kind of scat back that they can use for some dump offs. But I mean, he didn't get any catches.
Yeah.
And then when they got too close to the goal line, Jordan Howard's obviously a big body back that they just activated now that Miles Sanders is on the IR. So it kind of makes sense that Jordan Howard got goal line touches, but Boston Scott, he's more or less kind of similar to Kenneth Gainwell. So it's confusing to me. It's very confusing. But I just think that Boston Scott looked better out there. That's what it was.
So which of these running backs should fantasy managers be rostering, or which of these running backs should fantasy managers be looking at to plug in their FanDuel lineup next week?
None.
Gainwell. I'm still sticking with Gainwell. This was a 44-6 game. Gainwell is a receiving back. That's where his value comes from his receptions. The Eagles won 44-6. They had no need to use the receiving back in a game like this. He got the 13 carries, wasn't efficient with them, but where his value has come from and will continue to come from is that receiving work. This game script completely took him out of the game in that aspect. Gainwell is going to be valuable going forward, but man, was this just a gut punch to fantasy managers everywhere. Like Miles Sanders goes out, everyone plugs Gainwell in, and then the Eagles come out and just win 44-6. Like, it was the perfect storm to make it just an awful week for fantasy for Gainwell, but I still have confidence in him going forward.
I'm personally not starting any of these running backs.
That's fair. I do. I'm still bullish on Gainwell. I'm with Simon, but I also agree with Josh. You gotta be hedging a little bit, and I would not be starting Gainwell next week if I don't have to, because I want to see if it's only this game script, if there's some sort of trend here with them bringing Jordan Howard in and everything. Devonta Smith, he had 1 reception on 3 targets, 15 yards. Almost all the Eagles receiving options were duds this week. Is this a game script situation, kind of like Gainwell, you guys think?
Yes.
Or okay.
It was. Like Simon said, coming in, or just a minute or two ago, they were destroying the entire game. It wasn't even close. They didn't need their wide receivers to do much. They didn't need to put Jalen Hurts in horrible situations that caused turnovers. Jalen Hurts, he had a fine game. He was rushing 7 attempts for 71 yards. So, but only 9 completions. 14 passes, that kind of sums it up right there.
Yeah, that's not very much at all. And Minshew did come in here in the game. Didn't affect much.
No.
Probably not much insight to take away from this game, considering that they most likely won't be in games like this very often going forward.
Yeah.
I do want to say that Boston Scott and Jordan Howard, they were getting those goal line carries early in the game before it was a blowout. So I think you can take that away. I don't know. I don't know. I think you could at least look at that and be
there should be concern for sure.
Yeah.
Now on the Lions side of this ball, Lions 0-8 Lions now, or 0-7 Lions?
Yeah, 0-8.
0-8. Oh, that is unfortunate. Khalif Raymond, he's a name who we've been talking about a lot in the last few weeks as sort of target leader in this offense. He posted a dud. Amon-Ra St. Brown, he was the only wide receiver on this team with fantasy points this week. What do we do with this Lions receiving core? Are any of them trustworthy or even worth rostering at this point, or throwing in your FanDuel lineup?
I said it last week, and I'm going to say it again this week. If you have to start one of them, it's Amon-Ra St. Brown. I know Khalif Raymond has been involved, but Amon-Ra is the receiver I want to start. His targets have been more consistent.
Do you want to start him, though?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
But if you have to start an option from this team, it's Amon-Ra for me.
Get him off my team, all of them. All of them. Get him. I don't want them. I want DeAndre Swift and TJ Hawkinson. The rest of the people can go. Yeah.
Go. Yeah.
To the waiver wire.
Yeah.
To the waiver wire.
Yeah. You know what I'm getting at.
Now, the rookie running back, Jamar Jefferson, he got to see his first NFL action this week with Jamal Williams being inactive.
Nice job.
Should fantasy managers be at all keeping an eye on Jamar Jefferson, or is this more of just like we needed someone to, we needed a warm body to fill in for Jamal Williams?
I have no interest in redraft, that's for sure. Maybe in Dynasty you can pick him up. Like, he looked decent enough today to give me a reason to throw him on the back of a Dynasty bench, but in redraft, no. He was a fill-in.
Someone started him against me in a Dynasty league. I was like, what? I was like, look at this loser. He's starting Jamar Jefferson.
And he vultured a touchdown.
I was like, what?
2 carries for 6 yards and 1 touchdown. What a stat line.
I know. I'm still gonna win that fantasy game. Yeah, let's go. But
it
was kind of disappointing in the moment. It was.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, DeAndre Swift is like what stands out. He didn't really have a great game, but I'm not nervous about it. I'm not nervous about it at all.
No, you can't be too. It's DeAndre Swift. You're gonna keep on starting him week in, week out.
Yeah, he's clearly the guy here.
Yeah. Okay, guys, before we move on to our next matchup, we had a couple questions in the chat. Logan wants to know, keep McKissick through the bye or drop him for Kenyon Drake? I'm keeping McKissick.
Yeah.
If you don't need to drop him for a start on the bye week, I'm keeping McKissick.
And I think Josh Jacobs is probably going to end up playing this next week, especially having the bye this week. So Kenyon Drake, while Josh Jacobs is healthy, I don't have any interest in playing Kenyon Drake myself.
Bars in the Tuck has a question for us. I'm starting Zeke. I need a flex. Pollard, Osborne, or Darrell Williams. Full PPR, thanks. It's Darrell Williams, right?
Yes.
You guys agree? Yeah. You take the starting running back and you run. That's what you're doing here. He's going to get the most touches, most likely, out of these guys, unless something happens to Zeke, in which case you're probably screwed anyways. So start Darrell Williams.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, speaking of J.D. McKissick, with the question that we just answered, we are going to be moving on to the Washington football team versus Denver Broncos game real quick. And the first thing I wanted to talk about was actually J.D. McKissick and Antonio Gibson. It was both of them together. So Antonio Gibson has been dealing with the, a stress fracture in his shin. Said he was a full go. The Washington football team has said he was a full go. But I feel like we have seen a change in how he's being used in this offense. This week he had 8 attempts, 3 targets, and J.D. McKissick had the inverse, 3 attempts and 8 targets. So Josh, if you have to pick a running back to start, do you want the one with 8 attempts and 3 targets or 3 attempts and 8 targets?
Hey, you're pigeonholing.
I know. I'm taking it out of context, but the point I'm trying to make
I'll take the one with the targets.
The targets are very, very valuable in fantasy, and McKissick is showing yet again that he's going to continue to be used in that way. JL, how do you view McKissick rest of season? As a plug-and-play running back, an emergency start running back?
I think I would put him probably in the RB3 category. There's a chance that that I'm wrong on that because we don't know what's going to go on with Antonio Gibson's injury, how that's going to affect him. But as of now, I'd view him as that back-end RB2, high-end RB3 type of player in PPR formats.
If we're being honest, the Antonio Gibson injury doesn't really affect J.D. McKissick's value that much in my mind based on what we've seen so far. Patterson is getting the carries that Gibson isn't, not McKissick. McKissick's still getting 3 carries with the Gibson injury. Patterson's the back that raises in value.
But Gibson is a good pass catching back, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
While Patterson, I think, is a little bit more of that, classic, back. Antonio Gibson was a wide receiver in college. So you would envision Antonio Gibson taking some of that receiving or the targets away from J.D. McKissick, right? If he was completely healthy.
Yeah, we've seen McKissick's targets go up a bit over the last three or so weeks since Gibson has been injured. But Gibson also has had a pretty consistent target count around 2 to 3 pretty much since week 2. So I don't know if it's fully Gibson's. Gibson is the result of McKissick's targets going up.
Yeah, I'm with you, JL. I think McKissick is the result of McKissick's targets going up. The Washington football team obviously prefers them as their receiving back. And you know what? I didn't project that going into the season. I'm taking a full L on that one. And those of you who drafted McKissick, great job. I think he's an awesome plug-and-play receiving back option that you could have gotten late rounds in drafts.
And I think if Gibson does go out, then like Josh said, That's like 2 to 3 targets a game added onto McKissick's count, most likely, which is still going to be, it's going to matter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
On the other side of this
I think it's
ball,
already affecting him right now, is what I'm saying. I think the injury right now, there would be more targets going Gibson's way if he wasn't dealing with this injury.
I think you're right on that.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the backs on the other side of this ball, guys. And I had a moment today. I've been waiting for the change to happen between Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon for it to shift that direction. And you know what? I think I'm here to say that we're not going to see that change this season. Melvin Gordon is doing exactly what the Broncos are asking of him. He's performing well. He's doing well for fantasy managers. I don't know if we're going to see a switch to Javonte Williams taking over this backfield this season. Josh, I know that's what we've, or at least I've been projecting forward, that it'll switch as the season goes on. Do you think that switch still takes place, or is this role for Melvin Gordon pretty secure rest of the season?
I think the switch could take place, but it would be, maybe Melvin Gordon's getting 60% of the work right now and Javonte Williams is getting 40%. Maybe that flips. Maybe Javonte Williams, after their bye in week 11, and that's a lot of the time when we see rookie running backs really take over the starting role at running back. Maybe after their week 11 bye, Javonte Williams starts getting more work than Melvin Gordon, but Melvin Gordon's not going away. He's a talented running back. And but I will say Javonte Williams looks so freaking good out there when he does get the work. I understand why people want Javonte Williams out there. It makes a lot of sense, but at the same time, Melvin Gordon's not going away.
Yep. Guys, on the Broncos side of this ball as well, we had an addition back to this offense this week, Jerry Jeudy, but it did not come with much fanfare in the way of a great fantasy performance. 4 targets, 4 receptions, 39 yards. Are you worried about Jerry Jeudy rest of season, or was this just the Denver passing game couldn't really get it going in this game?
Yeah, I mean, it's his first time back too, so you got to temper expectations, and they didn't pass to anyone. I mean, that was the most. Jerry Jeudy had the most receptions out of any wide receiver on this team. Yeah,
and I was nervous. I was hesitant starting him this week, his first week back, regardless. I wanted to see what happened, and it's encouraging. 4 catches, 39 yards, like you said, the most catches out of all the receivers. It's encouraging. I think you can throw him in your flex, but a little nervous. It makes me a little nervous for him going forward.
I'm right there with JL. I'm a little bit encouraged by this, not discouraged. He had the most catches on the team, like you guys said, in a game that was not great to any of the receiving options. I think by end of season, he's the one on this team. Cortland Sutton being maybe a 1B, but I view Jerry Jeudy as the one on this team going forward. But man, what a disappointing week. We are going to move on to our next game, guys, unless you have anything else. The Tampa Bay versus New Orleans Saints game. New Orleans came out 36-27 with a confusing win over the Buccaneers.
Yeah, and New Orleans was not expected to win this game whatsoever. They were actually up.
What?
They were 4-point underdogs going into this game, and they pulled it out. Tom Brady he made some mistakes. Right? But on the Buccaneers side of the ball, Tom Brady still had a great fantasy game. He was still a guy you wanted to plug and play. Leonard Fournette was probably the most disappointing part of this Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense. Maybe Mike Evans, you could say, but he scored that touchdown, so I'm not going to say it was disappointing. But Leonard Fournette really didn't put it together. He didn't get the attempts, and we haven't really seen the Buccaneers be down in games as much, and it's probably a result of that. And that's why we saw Giovanni Bernard on the field a little bit more. You guys nervous about Leonard Fournette at all? How about you, JL or Simon? Whatever.
He should have had a touchdown in this game. He fumbled it right there at the goal line.
Yeah,
and then if he has a touchdown, then we're totally fine with this, right? We go, oh, he didn't get as much work, but he got a touchdown and we're cool with it. I'm not worried about Leonard Fournette. He seems to be the RB1 in this offense, like pretty clearly at this point, and that's a running back you're going to start in fantasy.
Yeah. I'm still comfortable with Leonard Fournette myself too. JL, you have a different opinion here?
No. He's the clear one on this pretty high-powered offense, apart from today, I guess. I'm perfectly fine with Leonard Fournette.
I got a good question for you. Elijah Mitchell or Leonard Fournette rest of the season? Did it to you guys. Fournette. I am taking Fournette still.
Fournette, yep.
Yeah, it's Fournette for me as well.
Yeah, fair enough.
You guys know where going into this game Fournette is ranked on the season? Like he is the RB blank on the season prior to this week's games.
RB 9.
Josh nailed it. He is the RB10 in PPR formats going into this week.
I was this close to saying 9. You get 9 in before.
Damn. Yeah, no, I knew it was up there.
I like my 9s.
I knew it was up there.
But also in this game, of course, Godwin looks so freaking good today. So
12
good.
targets.
Oh my.
That's 3 times. 3 times Mike Evans targets.
Take all the stats out of it. Just the way he looked on the field.
Good.
He looked so
fantastic.
fast. Like the cuts he was making, he looked like a superstar receiver out there. And
even with Antonio Brown, guys, is he the wide receiver 1 on this team? Let's say Antonio Brown's healthy next week. I'm saying it. I'm with you, JL.
Yep. Chris Godwin's the one.
Hesitant.
I'm not saying it. I don't know. I have a hard time ranking these 3 receivers.
I do too.
1A, 1B, 1C. Like, I don't know. Maybe some weeks he's the wide receiver 1. Yeah. Know what I mean? And then some weeks it's Antonio Brown.
Yeah. And Gronk was knocked out of this game. That sucked to see. I did start him in 1 league myself. So
back spasms.
I'm upset about that. Yeah, back spasms. It's not even really, maybe it's correlated to the ribs somehow, but who knows? But outside of that, on the other side of the ball, Jameis Winston got knocked out of the game.
Yeah, he did.
Man, that was
bad. Concerning to see. I know. And Trevor Siemian came in and he filled in just fine. Honestly. Like he had a game Jameis Winston could easily have had. You know, I don't think Trevor Siemian has quite the arm that Jameis Winston has, but maybe he's more willing to check it down, making safer decisions. So I like this for that Saints offense. Alvin Kamara, he had a game we all more or less expected. He had an Alvin Kamara game, 19 carries, 61 yards and a touchdown, 3 catches for 15 yards. Mark Ingram was slightly involved. We just talked about him earlier. Guys, outside of Alvin Kamara, yeah, he was slightly involved.
Yeah, 6 carries, 27 yards is not bad. Plus 2 receptions, 25 yards.
Not playing him fantasy.
Yeah, I might in a pinch. And his first game in New Orleans, I only expect that usage to go up. He got 7.2 fantasy points in PPR, which isn't anything, but like I said, emergency, I might consider throwing him.
I'm not playing Mark Ingram. I doubt there's a week I'll play Mark Ingram this year or 1-2. But we'll see. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. He was great with Alvin Kamara 5 years ago with the Saints. The Drew
Thunder and Lightning. What was it?
Josh, were you more likely to start Mark Ingram as what was like the lead back in Houston or as this secondary role here in New Orleans?
Lead back in Houston? I don't know.
I think so, me too.
That's both. It's a bad situation regardless. Yeah. But outside of Alvin Kamara, I guess Mark Ingram, I was going to say, are you willing to start? Do you want to start anyone on the Saints offense outside of Alvin Kamara? JL might say Mark Ingram. I'm not. But I don't want to start any of these guys. I'm out on
the defense. I'll start Saints BST, but yeah, nothing else. I mean, Marquez Callaway in an emergency, I think you can throw in there, but that's about it.
Yeah. But outside of that, there's really not much to talk about on the same side of the ball, you know? Alvin Kamara killed it, and their defense is really good, and everyone's going to be a little involved. Right.
There we go. And the Saints, it was fun watching the game today because it felt like every time they called out a Saints player name, like 90% of people watching the game went to go Google them real quick to see who the person was. There were just so many names called today where everyone was like, oh, I didn't even know they were in the NFL. Before we move on to the last game we're going to cover, guys, Dennis in here said he's finally going to lose his first game.
No.
And he drafted CMC, Antonio Gibson, Calvin Ridley, and Chris Carson in the first 4 rounds, and you were undefeated, Dennis.
How?
Good God.
You were making the waiver moves. I bet you picked up Cordell Patterson. I bet you grabbed Mike Williams. I'm just making guesses.
That's like going Deebo Samuel
in the 10th round.
0 RB, but you only got 1 pick in the first 4 rounds, and that pick also isn't playing. Like you just like
zero
anything. Yeah. Man,
Michael
Dennis,
Pittman, maybe.
that is an impressive start to the season for you there. Guys, we're going to move on to the Jacksonville versus Seattle game here now. Seattle winning 31-7 in this one.
Yeah, this was a interesting game. I guess it went sort of how we were all expecting. Geno Smith actually looks pretty good in this game, though. 20 completions on 24 attempts, 195 yards, 2 touchdowns. It's pretty average.
And a rushing touchdown.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and a rushing touchdown. It's a pretty average if you're just looking at the box score, but he passed the eye test. He looked good in the game. Alex Collins had 10 carries for 44 yards. He's the clear running back one on this team. Do you guys disagree with that?
No, I agree with it.
Can we expect Alex Collins to be the leader on the bar and Chris Carson return?
I think rest of the season, if Chris Carson, let's say he's out the rest of the season, we are going to see more or less what we saw in this game, where Alex Collins is going to get the most carries. I'm very confident about that. But there's going to be other running backs involved, more involved in the passing game. DJ Dallas is going to get touches. Rashad Penny, Travis Homer, all these guys are going to get touches. So Alex Collins is the running back I would want to start if I had to start one. And I think he's startable, but he's probably going to have to get a touchdown.
That's fair. Simon, would you rather have Alex Collins or Mike Davis?
Alex Collins.
Me too.
What about James Conner?
James Conner.
James Conner. All right.
Yeah.
So that's what that line is.
James Conner.
On the receiving options, we have Tyler Lockett, 13 targets, 12 receptions on 13 targets, 142 yards, no touchdowns.
What?
Tyler Lockett.
He looked guardable in this game. I don't know what was going on. I don't know if they were targeting a specific corner or something in the secondary, but Tyler Lockett literally looked like they couldn't keep up with him.
It's the Jaguars.
The Jaguars.
It's the Jaguars.
I'm just saying what you saw watching this game.
Right.
He
looked awesome, amazing, and DK Metcalf looked great to himself.
6 targets, 6 receptions, 43 yards, and 2 touchdowns for DK Metcalf. My God,
very cool touchdowns.
My God,
DK Metcalf.
It's in the game. All right, moving on to the other side of this game, Jacksonville. Kind of what we've been seeing from Jacksonville. James Robinson got hurt in this game. Yeah, he went out. James Robinson and Carlos Hyde saw an increased workload. How are you guys feeling about this running back core going forward? Are you picking up Carlos Hyde? Are you picking up anyone else on this team in case James Robinson misses time?
Josh and I are shaking our heads different directions.
I know.
I'm going to go with the no first. That way we get the negativity out there.
Yeah.
Not that this offense has looked good this season, but it looked like it could do something. When James Robinson left this game, this offense looked unbelievably lost, like more lost than I've seen them look this entire season. And you know what? I expect that to continue without James Robinson. I have zero interest in any of the running backs in this running game besides James Robinson. If he's out, I'm hands off on the running game for Jacksonville entirely.
I'm going to tell you why, because Carlos Hyde got 8 targets for 6 catches and 40 yards. He took that James Robinson role. So if James Robinson got knocked out with an ankle injury, if he's out for a significant period of time, Carlos Hyde is probably the number 1 waiver pickup this week for me. I don't know. We'll see.
Are you going to throw him in any of your FanDuel lineups, Josh, given that this team is not the best, some have said?
Who are they playing next week? Probably not. But just the fact
the
that
Bills.
He got
They're playing the
catches,
Bills next week.
Oh, no. Hell no. But the fact that he got 6 catches, it shows something. It shows that they trust him in the receiving game. They trust him as that third down back. They trust him as that dump off, easy catch kind of run player. And no other running back was nearly as involved as Carlos Hyde. So Carlos Hyde's the next man up for this offense. And whatever that may be, this offense, the Jaguars, like I said earlier. So.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think so. Looking at the receiving options in this game, we get Marvin Jones, 7 targets, 5 receptions for 35 yards. No bueno. Jamal Agnew, 12 targets, 6 receptions, 38 yards, and a touchdown. And Dan Arnold, 10 targets, 8 receptions, 68 yards, and no touchdowns. How are you guys feeling about these receiving options? I know you two have both been up on Marvin Jones this past season. Been high on Marvin Jones this past season. Is that resolve shaking a little bit, or is it you still feel that way? Is he still the wide receiver one?
Jaguars.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Jaguars, and if I have to start a receiver for the Jaguars, it's going to continue to be Marvin Jones for me.
Yeah.
It was great seeing this from Agnew and Arnold, but I have a lot more trust in what I've seen from Marvin Jones throughout this season so far. I'd rather not start any of these receivers, but if I have to pick one, it's Marvin Jones, and I think he's a fine start usually week to week.
Simon, ditto.
So Dan Arnold from the tight end position, he's, that's a decent.
Throw him in there with the CJ Uzamas and the guys that you can plug in any given week if your guy's on bye or gets injured. Like just throw Dan Arnold in that pile now. And he's one of those guys you can just grab off waivers and go, I think I'll go Dan Arnold this week.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yep, ditto.
Like he doesn't stand above that group for me, you know what I mean? But he's right there in that group.
That's fair.
Brian Muth or Arnold rest of the season. Me too.
Yeah, for
But
Adams,
it's
just because of the
close.
offense, but it is close. I'm a little more bullish on Dan Arnold. He is a good prospect, and like there's not many options here.
Yeah.
It's the Jaguars. That's
It's still
Before
the
we move on,
Jaguars.
Dennis wanted to know if we had any opinions on streaming kickers for Week 9. Dennis, I'm just going to tell you, we do not have any kicker experts here, unless Josh or JL suddenly became kicker experts.
I'm definitely not a kicker expert. Start the best one. Start the one that's going to score the most points. That would be my recommendation to you. I actually, it's probably Crosby for me.
I try to go to ones with going up against a decent but not great defense, but that's about where I stand on that one. High scoring game against the decent but not
look at
great
the over
defense.
under, and whoever has the highest over under, play him. How about that?
There we go, guys. Guys, that is going to be it for our Sunday night recap. We've got some Sunday night football to go watch, so we'll let everyone go head over there. Before we go on, to remind everybody, if you're watching this and you haven't done so already, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe to FanDuel on YouTube and go follow them on Twitch. And if you haven't done so already, they got some awesome TikTok content creators out there as well. Go find FanDuel on TikTok and all the other socials as well. We are out of here for today, but we will be back next Sunday as well, doing this again at 7 p.m. So make sure to come join us then. Signing off from a cow, a construction worker, and Facebook itself. We will see you guys next week.
Adios.
Adios, everyone.
Trading makes fantasy fun.
Did you steal that sign, Josh?